Welcome to this special episode of Let's Talk Geek. Let's talk ice cream sandwich. Thank you for watching. Welcome to the special broadcast of Let's Talk Geek. Tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about Android 4.0 ice cream sandwich and iOS 5, mainly because we haven't had the opportunity to actually talk about it in previous Let's Talk Geek episodes. Joining me tonight we have Gerrit Vermeulen.
Howdy.
And to my right, Johan Els.
Goedenavond.
Good evening.
How are you guys?
Good and yourself. Thank you for joining us. Bit of a surprise for you too.
The last big surprise for me too, yeah.
Yeah, Johan kind of just pitched up here and I went, hey, you want to join us? And he said, yeah, sure. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a busy time in the studio at the moment because we're all gearing up for the My
Broadband conference.
Let's Talk Network's handling the streaming, so Johan hasn't been sleeping much, I hear.
Tim.
Tim as well.
I've been getting some sleep, but Tim has not been sleeping much. But we'll be ready. We'll have that broadcast in the bag Wednesday night.
Great news. Anyway,
that's good stuff.
We are here to talk Android, ice cream sandwich, and maybe a little of iOS 5.
Yeah, if we have time.
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion of iOS 5 that's already happened, though. I think it's time to do a little bit of justice to Android. iOS 5 was announced early in the year. It's just finally launched commercially, but everybody who was a geek already really had it installed on their device anyway. So let's.
I even got to play with the beta a little bit, but with Android, there's no beta. I really think that's a feature that they should introduce, an early beta for developers. Could be interesting. Anyway, Android 4.0, they introduced a lot of things. They kind of started from scratch. They took some of the design that they had with Honeycomb, and actually, let's start with that. With Honeycomb, they tried to get something out for tablets specifically so that manufacturers would stop taking Android made for phones and just upscaling it to fit on a 10-inch tablet, which I think we can all agree that looked hideous. So with Honeycomb, they kind of cut corners where they could so that they can get a release out quick enough, specifically for tablets.
But they also never released the source code for Honeycomb.
Yes, but the reason behind not releasing the source code was so that other developers and so that manufacturers wouldn't take Honeycomb and try and downscale it to put it on phones because it wasn't designed for that. It was made to fit on tablets.
But that's like a stupid reason.
Well, they needed to get something out really quick because manufacturers were doing stupid things like taking Android 2.2 and 2.3 and slapping it on tablets. It looked ugly, it wasn't usable, and Google eventually, I think they just didn't even give market permissions or Google Apps permissions. They didn't give those things.
Do the manufacturers pay Google for a license fee?
There is definitely some sort of commercial arrangement.
For Honeycomb?
It's not a license fee. I don't know about Honeycomb, but for Android in general, in order to be able to put Google applications on your device, you have to enter into some kind of commercial agreement with Google, and that includes other terms like an update agreement, like you will support the device for a certain length of time.
That's
blah, blah, blah.
That's fairly recent now as well, specifically to try and address the fragmentation issue that we've been faced with, or that they've been faced with. So with Ice Cream Sandwich, they took a look at Honeycomb, and they went, okay, what now?
I'm sorry.
Please do.
My reason for my question is, if there's some sort of a license agreement so that you can not just go ahead and get Android and put it on your hardware, then this whole fear about taking...
Android is open source.
Yes.
So you can take the Gingerbread 2.3 Android open source project and put it on whatever you like. So it's in weird and wonderful places.
But then their motivation around Honeycomb, that's where I'm trying to get.
Yes.
Why they didn't ever release the source code for Honeycomb so that manufacturers don't try and put it onto
phones.
But the manufacturer has to get the source code through the license agreement.
Well, they don't.
You see my point? So that whole argument is just skewed.
But they get it for tablets. And you only get the Google apps for tablets. So it was designed for tablets. And after that, also remember the roaming community. So a lot of people tried to do SDK ports even of Honeycomb onto phones. So they took the SDK that was there and they ported that onto phones. There's actually one for the Nexus S. It's fairly terrible.
Okay.
Because it just wasn't made for that. So, Ice Cream Sandwich. They looked at Honeycomb, they went, what's next? and they started redesigning pretty much everything, taking a lot of decisions, a lot of the UI from Honeycomb and making it work on a phone. So they started first off with a new font, which they called Roboto. And as soon as the launch actually closed, I got it running on my phone as well. You need a little bit of some Android foo to get it working. It looks pretty good from what I can tell. It reads very nicely. And I think it's just going to look so sexy on the Galaxy Nexus. It's a sans serif font, or based font, as far as I understand it. Very curvy, but it's supposed to be sort of, how to explain? It's supposed to have the curves, but still look machined. That kind of thing. So they started with a font, and they make a big deal about the font. And
It's a font.
It's a
Is
font.
this a preview of the font on the screen?
Yes. So you can see it's sans serif
But I mean, can we... Yeah.
and loads of curvaceousness.
Yes, you know. I give it...
Typography is important.
Yes.
And the thing with fonts is that it's actually an intellectual property minefield. So you've got to either find a kind of open source font or roll your own, or risk the wrath of
Okay,
the
well,
font,
let's
of
ask the
font owner.
question. Okay, I understand. Okay, I can probably say font is important because have you changed your default font yet on any of your devices?
On my phone, yes. I changed it to Roboto as soon as I could get it.
Yeah, okay. I mean, but other than that,
No. Never
have you
felt
ever
the
changed
need.
the font? I mean, I tried the Harry Potter font for a couple of days on my tablet. It was quite cute.
Yeah.
But it sort of loses. I mean, there's some standard fonts that just work. I mean, for how long was Arial was a standard? Now it's Verdata. What's it? Verdana. I mean, now that's if you want to do a properly printed document, that's what you use. Okay, but give them Toulouse. Okay, so they started. That's the
So
first thing.
now Google has their own font.
Okay. It's funny,
So-
it doesn't have the word Google in it. Oh no, that's an
Oh,
Apple stunt.
Roboto.
Roboto.
So it's an Android name going there.
Okay.
And
But
then
if you've got it on your phone now, that's an open source font.
I think it actually came from the system dump. So after the announcement, the ice cream sandwich announcement, they released the SDK, and you can
Yeah.
actually do a full-on system dump. So someone did a system dump and grabbed the font from out of there. They've also grabbed some of the apps and the widgets and so on, but most of them won't work on current ROMs, gingerbread ROMs, because it doesn't have the ice cream sandwich framework.
Okay.
So, those things just won't work. Some of it does, most of it doesn't. Then, more features. They changed the lock screen. Kind of looks like Honeycomb. And there's a little bit of an animation now to sort of indicate that you're supposed to swipe it to the right to unlock. There's like this wave bubbling thing, which is kind of cute. At least it gives you a visual cue of what you're supposed to be doing from the lock screen. Unlike what I'm thinking now is the N9. When you're faced with that lock screen, you don't know what to do. I mean, I actually had to ask you what to
Yes.
do with the N9.
Well, with the N9, there's a tutorial, but when you set the device up the first time.
Ah, okay.
So
after that.
Yeah, after
But-
that. But that's a problem. I mean...
Yeah, for any other guy like me picking up your phone going, how do I
Okay.
actually unlock this? And if you think Windows Phone...
Does it only unlock to the right?
Yes.
Okay.
But swipe to the right, and once you touch it, two things appear. A camera icon on the left, and on the right, the little lock.
So if you swipe left, you turn on the camera?
Yes, you go straight into the camera.
Okay.
And we'll get
that's
to the
kinda
camera a
cool
little bit
because
later. The
on
camera
iOS
is awesome.
5, well, I mean, just to draw comparisons, in order to get this to work on iOS 5, I don't know if we
there's
can
a
put
double
the camera
tap
on
feature.
me. Yes. So you've got the lock screen. For those in the video, I'm not sure if I'm on screen yet. Main
Yes.
screen, turn on. Then you have to double tap the...
And then it shows up the little
then
icon
you've got
over
the
there.
little camera
And
icon over there.
I have some gripes about that. How is that intuitive?
It isn't.
Exactly. And, considering this is Apple we're talking about, they're all about intuitiveness. And then they
Okay,
have
whoa,
this thing
whoa,
where you
whoa.
double tap.
Let's just come back because I think we're missing the point on the lock screen. Okay.
Okay.
So that's a design that
It looks a little bit like the Honeycomb one.
Google decided this is how it should look like. All right. Did they make it open? Can people still, without having to climb through hoops or jump through hoops, make changes to the lock screen? Did
How do you
anybody
mean-
ask that question?
How do you mean still?
See, I think we'll get to this point. My general point here is actually, I mean, we can talk about all the user interface improvements to Ice Cream Sandwich, but who is going to use the stock Google look?
Thank you.
Just Google devices. But we'll get to that. I think we just need to run through what, what you're getting with
Well,
Ice Cream Sandwich.
What I think Sense, the new Sense 3.0, wherever HTC Sense is right now, is already kind of in the Honeycomb and now Ice Cream Sandwich look with the little disc that you swipe up to unlock and that you can swipe to a shortcut. So it's kind of like the default one. So you can still, the OEMs can still, do whatever they want to it.
The thing is, they've already done it. So they're not going to roll back to, or they've implemented similar kind of functionality in the way that they saw fit.
But that's
so
also
them,
because Honeycomb was already there. So they went, hey, that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Let's build on that.
Yeah,
or
but now they've rolled their own. So there's no real,
well, HTC
Google
already had their own.
And this is my general point with the whole incremental upgrading of Android is what features did they really introduce with Ice Cream Sandwich that is going to be available to the guy who buys an HTC, a Samsung, or a Motorola device?
Well,
a non-Nexus Samsung device, I should say.
I think Google and the Android team is trying to get to a point where manufacturers will no longer feel the need to have to theme their devices. So, HTC Sense is a very, very heavy, even bloated theme on top of stock Android.
But how much money have they invested in that now? They're not just going to abandon it.
They're not going to abandon all of it, but maybe they'll abandon some of it.
I don't know.
Maybe they'll rather consider...
When you chat to these guys, and this was Nokia's big shtick with Android as well, is when you sit down and chat to these guys, they're all about differentiation. They don't care how wonderful the stock stuff is that Google puts out, as long as it makes it easy for them to mod. So
I wonder if Nokia is going to have that kind of modding experience
on Windows Phone. Yeah, let's
that's the thing.
See, so there's the thing is, yes, you can modify the user interface, but shouldn't they be modifying more with services? Like Nokia going to Windows Phone, Nokia is bringing probably OV Music, OV Maps, all of those services, and who knows, I think that those services are only going to be on their devices.
Sure.
I don't think they're going to bring those to HTC and to Samsung devices.
Sure.
So that is their differentiation. And shouldn't the manufacturers, if they want to differentiate, be differentiating like that?
Yeah, sure. But the problem is that you're competing against your upstream provider. So Google is busy working on Google Music. All right, it's a direct competitor to OV. Google has their own map service. That if you
except I think OV is better.
OV can be better, and OV has better 3D imaging in South Africa at the moment, and it's got offline stuff, right? So of course, getting that to work on Android, would have been a trick in itself, but they could have probably pulled it off. But the fact is that you're competing against your upstream provider. What kind of situation is that? Not that, you'd still have Bing Maps. It's not that different to what's happening with Microsoft, because Microsoft is really trying to position themselves to be
And Microsoft
Google.
has always been a software provider. They don't do hardware.
Yes.
Well, they have done hardware, and that failed quite terribly, I think.
And it's the same with Google.
Zune.
Microsoft mice, man.
Yeah, okay.
Microsoft keyboards.
Microsoft mice and keyboards.
Webcams. Look at the webcams we're using for the
Peripherals.
podcast.
Those are peripherals.
Yeah,
okay,
hardcore
good
hardware.
point. Okay,
they've
good
never
point.
put out like
okay,
a...
good point.
But we're kind of getting off topic. But the bottom line here is that, I don't think... The point is that when you sit down and chat to these guys, and all the Nokia Windows Phone 7 stuff aside, the key point the whole time is differentiation. And if they cannot differentiate, like in terms of look and feel, then they feel dead in the water.
To come back to my point, hopefully Google sees this and makes the interface or the underlying code available so that
it will be.
HTC Sense doesn't end up being so bloated because they're trying to rewrite half of the code to make their software
It's already
work.
written. This is the problem.
Yeah, and,
So
and it's
rather
been
give it-
ported
rather
from like
give it-
Windows Windows
Rather
Mobile.
give the operating system more openness. So give you APIs that access the lock screen so that you can do your own thing on the lock screen.
There are ways to do that. Things like widget locker.
But that
those
widget locker
types.
is replacing some of the core system code. They're not using the core system
It's
code.
switching off the default lock screen, and because
So
it's,
I'm just.
but
I'm,
I mean,
my
as a
question-
ROM, if you're ROMing, then you can go that deep. I don't know if it's
My question is
it's
just,
that possible,
I hope that
but yes,
Google
I hear
is
what you're
seeing
saying.
That they rather give the platform and that the lock screen that they're promoting at the moment is more their view of how the platform should be used. But then people like HTC can actually just ignore their code, use that platform and get to the lock screen.
Okay, but getting back to ICS.
Okay, ICS is...
Ice cream sandwich.
Oh, is that now the new term?
Yes, that's
You
well
think-
I use.
Okay.
Let's hope that gets.
I think most folks refer to it as ICS.
I'm
Because
just
they couldn't
checking.
just call it ice cream. Anyway.
Yes, it's emerging. The home screen got some love too, which I think looks pretty sweet. No more hardware buttons at least not on the Galaxy Nexus. What they've done here is they've gone and said it's not necessary to have hardware buttons, but if you feel you want them, you can have them. And if you feel you don't want them, there's default soft buttons which are there. They reorient themselves, and if you're like watching video, they switch off completely so that you can immerse yourself in the video.
Well, if they weren't on the screen, they wouldn't have to switch off. But
I mean, on like my Nexus, the hardware buttons don't switch off. The backlighting is always there. So that's really irritating. That is the software implementation is better because they just go away, and they can go away that easily.
That's all fine and well until you need to reset a device.
But luckily to date, all the mobile devices you can get the backlight.
You still have some hardware buttons. You don't have the default Android hardware buttons. You still have a power button. You still have volume rockers. And that's actually an important point, is there's native screenshot capabilities in Android now. Hallelujah. Power button and volume down.
So those are still there?
Yes. You still have some hardware buttons, but you don't need the
But nothing
Android
on the
buttons.
front face?
Yes. So
It's going to be interesting.
think something like the N9, but it still actually has buttons. So it's still Android.
Yeah.
It still looks and feels like Android.
I really enjoy
and
the
uses like
navigability. Just simple stuff like having a back button. I know people gripe about the fact that the back button doesn't work uniformly across apps, and I say that that's not necessarily a bad thing. Let the app developer decide what he wants the back button to do. The home button, though, the home button does exactly what you think it does.
And with the back button, if the app developer doesn't do anything funny with it, it always just goes one screen back. And one of the important
if you root
buttons,
your phone, you can use the back button to kill apps.
Yeah, except I don't believe in that killing apps thing. I let Android take care of itself. One of the other important software buttons on the front is the multitasking button. So these things are also kind of taken from Honeycomb. And the multitasking button is there. And multitasking has always been a part of Android, but I think it's been tricky for some people to discover. You have to press and hold the home button.
Yes.
Not very intuitive.
And then when it pops up, it's not really a great way to navigate multiple apps.
You have what?
You have
eight recently opened apps.
Yes.
So it's not multitasking. It's just showing me what's the last 8 apps I opened.
It is it's quick app switching, if you want to call it that. But that's pretty much the same kind of thing that everyone else is using. It's battery efficient. It works, and it works well.
Okay, so they're now doing. So is that what they're claiming in the new ICS?
Well, that's always the multitasking capabilities have always been there.
They just gave it an interface button.
They gave it, yes. Now it's more discoverable because now it's on the front.
And does it work a little more like Honeycomb? So like tiles?
So, yes, it gives you a tile, like the Honeycomb tile interface, with a little snapshot of the current state of the app, which is cool, and next to it the app's name. And very intuitively, to get rid of stuff in the list, you can just swipe left or right, which wasn't part of Honeycomb.
Okay.
So that doesn't...
We are pausing for a little bit because my camera has balked.
Okay, so you can swipe left and right to get rid of things in your recently opened apps list, which is pretty intuitive, but that doesn't kill apps. That just removes them from your list. Android still takes care of killing things. And I think it's still better that way, that Android takes care of killing things. I used a task killer for a very brief amount of time when I first started off with Android, and it didn't work out well. And I think we've seen enough arguments why it's not necessary.
The only reason I use a task killer and why I've got it on my phone is because, we do some development, the streaming and stuff.
Yeah, that's the only time that I'll agree that a task killer is necessary. If you're it's for developers and you're working with code that could turn malicious.
Yeah, that's the only reason.
That's the only time you really need it. Instead of, you can just kill it instead of having to reboot your device the whole time. So that takes care of the multitasking. We've skipped ahead a bit here. The home screen. At the top, you'll see there's that Google search box, and that's persistent across all your home screens. But it doesn't, because there's no more search button. Like on my Nexus, I have a permanent search button. So that search box is on all your home screens.
So it's not a widget. It's part of
It's not a widget. It's always there, and you can see it.
How irritating.
It doesn't take away from your widget space. So you still have 4 lines of widget space. So they've taken advantage of the display on the Galaxy Nexus, and I'm waiting to see how this will look on lower res displays.
No, I don't like it. Sorry.
I guess it's one of those, it's a love it, hated thing.
Well, the thing is, I'm fairly sure, is this going to affect everybody, or will you be able to turn that off? So you, as a Galaxy Nexus user, might not be able to get rid of that.
Yeah.
But as an
as
HTC
well.
user,
So
as
maybe
a Samsung
if
user,
it detects that you have a hardware search button, it'll turn that off on a Galaxy, on a Nexus S. So with the people who do have the hardware button, you
the
don't
hardware
need that.
search button does more than search Google. The hardware
Yes.
search
Yeah.
button is for when you're in your contacts list or...
Yes, but also only if the app developer actually implements it.
Sure.
So in apps that I've developed, I don't use the search button in all of my screens. And if there actually is a search button, it just doesn't make sense. So in Honeycomb apps, you add a little search widget to the top, and that takes care of the search in your app. So if you're using search in your app, you add it to your app yourself. And so it makes sense to me.
While we're on the topic of the home screen, a thing that's always grated my cheese, especially since we're going to the realm of 1280 by 720 screens,
720p screens.
720p screen on the Galaxy Nexus. It's madness.
Did you see that new Toshiba screen?
Yes, that's
That's
even worse,
even
man.
worse.
But can I add more rows and columns yet?
No, they haven't added that to the launcher, which is something you can get in other
Launcher
non-stock.
Pro,
Launcher Pro,
ADW.
Go Launcher, all of those guys. And there is probably a reason for that. It's so that you don't have too many and then it starts looking bad. So things start getting squished together, things start overlapping.
Just let me have 5 rows and 5 columns. Really? Especially on such a massive screen.
Yeah, on a
It's
massive
one of-
screen like that,
It's one of
maybe
my
it is
pet
more
peeves
practical.
on just a QHD screen, like the HTC Sensation. The icons are so far apart.
And so huge.
It's just such a waste of space.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I'll agree. Widgets they now have scrollable widget support. Hallelujah in the default launcher, so you don't have to replace it with
Yeah,
AW.
once again, I'm going to keep making
that's
this
new.
point because
It's new in the default launcher, and it's important for the people who are picking up who are picking up an Android device for the first time. I mean, those people don't want to have to replace their launcher.
unless they're buying devices now that still come with gingerbread, if it's gingerbread,
Yeah.
sometimes it's even frozen.
So if you're buying like a Droid Razor and you'll be waiting to next year to get Ice Cream Sandwich, then you're gonna be
well, no,
replacing
but
the stock
that
launcher.
should come with
Okay,
Moto
but
Blur
now
because
explain.
Moto
Why
Blur is
Why do you want a scrollable widget?
So that you have, like, especially with the Gmail and the email, you can scroll through to find...
So you don't actually go into Gmail.
You don't have to go in, yes.
in
And
the
that's the whole
widget.
point of widgets, is it's
Okay.
information at a glance. You don't have to go into the app to see all of your info. So if you check my Honeycomb home screen, I'll show it to you a bit later, I have piles of widgets on there, and I don't have to go into any of those apps.
You can actually scroll.
I can
on
just scroll through them
Okay, that
without having
makes
to
sense.
open anything and jumping between things.
But that's on my Galaxy. Or was that something
Yes.
that Samsung implemented?
So it's something from Honeycomb that they
That they've
brought over
opened.
to phones.
Okay.
And manufacturers do that. And so this is also a point I'd like to make, is
Yeah.
that the manufacturers are almost always a step ahead of Google in terms of functionality. So one of my favorite examples is the original Galaxy S, which launched with Android 2.1, Eclair, and it came with a Wi-Fi hotspot support. And,
Which only came in Froyo.
And that only became available in Froyo.
Okay.
But
And this
that's a cool thing of the manufacturers. They can do stuff like that. So that's what they should be doing. Instead of just skinning the user interface, they should be adding...
I understand,
they should
but
be adding
then
value.
one release on, all your work becomes redundant.
Thank you.
Unless, of course, you actually took it off the trunk of 2.2, which they
And,
probably did.
Well, if they didn't take it off the trunk, contribute that to the open source project. Why not? Your work doesn't become useless. Your work goes into the open source project and makes
And
Android
everybody
better
else
for
and
everybody.
And everybody else can make money off of it. The thing is,
Where they're making their money? Off the OS or off the phone?
What's good for
Yeah.
one manufacturer here is good for all of them.
perhaps. I mean, it doesn't seem particularly good for the smaller guys like LG and Motorola, the guys who are struggling for survival in the Android space.
Motorola doesn't have to struggle anymore.
That's true.
Okay, so let's talk about algae.
And LG does well in certain markets. I mean, to be fair to them,
Yes.
they just
Yeah,
don't do
they
so well in South
the
Africa.
eastern markets?
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially there.
So I'm going to take his point. Yeah, share. That's the whole thing around Android. Or don't climb into this market. Go get your code from my Windows.
Yeah.
Join Windows Phone and see how that works out for you.
Yeah. Well, and that they've done. They do hedge their bets, all of them, don't they?
Yeah. No, they've
Is
got phones.
Samsung still going to release a Windows phone?
Yeah, don't they
They-
have that? Didn't they
they've got
release a new
Domia
Mango
7.
device?
Yeah, and they've got a new Mango device.
Yeah.
HTC
Especially
is
for
releasing them. LG's on board.
Yeah.
None of the LG Windows Phone devices have been released in South Africa, but they're definitely
But they
a
do
Windows
make
Phone.
it. Oh.
Yeah, so
That's interesting.
Almost all of them
Back to ICS.
Okay,
I think we're
sorry.
getting a bit sidetracked
Okay.
here. Along with scrollable widgets, you now have the stacks, which is also from Honeycomb. So with things like YouTube, you have a stack of YouTube videos, and then you can swipe down, and it goes to the next one, to the next
Oh,
one.
is that actually a OS feature? It's not a
It
widget
was a Honeycomb
feature.
feature. It's a widget feature, and developers can obviously use that. I've seen developers use it. One specific one that comes to mind is a guy who developed AppStack, which is a bunch of your applications in a stack. So you can put hordes of applications in there, and it takes up very little space on your home screen,
Okay.
which is, I think
Cute.
that's pretty cool. It's pretty cute, but it's more power for developers. You don't need a scrollable widget. You need a stack.
Okay,
Looks
so you got
kinda cute.
choices.
They've improved a little bit on folders and taken a bit of a leaf out of iOS's book. You now take an icon, drag it onto another icon, and then it, boom, makes a folder for you. And
Is
you
that
can,
not patented? Anyway, let's keep moving.
Let's wonder about that at a later point.
Okay, whoa. This is now folders for your
On your home screen.
home screen.
So, and then if you open them, I
Okay.
think our mixer is showing them to the watchers as well. You can move the icons around and resort them the way you like.
Okay.
Again, which is pretty decent, but taking a bit of a leaf out of the iOS book there, I think. Favorites tray at the bottom. So the 4 icons that you have at the bottom, you can only see 2 there. There's space for 4. With the Nexus 1, and with the Nexus S, the launcher only had space for 2. You couldn't customize them. It was, I think, your contacts and browser. And then you had your app tray launcher.
yeah.
Now there's 4 icons. You can customize them with whatever you want, including putting on folders. So you can make a folder and put it on.
But it's
at the
that now
bottom.
leave a total of 5 icons because
That
you
gives
still
you
got your
5
app tray.
icons at the bottom. 4 of them are customizable. You still have your app tray button.
Okay.
Opens up the app tray. And your widgets, instead of having the slightly counterintuitive press and hold on the home screen to get a widget, open up the app tray and it's actually a tab in the app tray. Here are your
Okay.
widgets. Click, drag, wherever you want to place it.
Now,
So-
there's an example of a feature which I hope is easy to roll into all the OEM customizations. So that,
Yeah.
because the folder support on Android has been shocking.
Has been,
It-
even though
it
they've
opens
had
a,
it from
a
the
massive
start.
overlay and it
Yeah.
stays open persistently.
Now it's a
really
smaller
ugly.
overlay. I don't think it stays open persistently. I'm not sure, but it's more customizable. It's a little bit maybe easier to discover. It makes sense what they did over there. Screenshots we've covered. Notifications, they've done some work as well, and I was holding thumbs for this. Was that you can swipe the notifications away one at a time, or you can kill all of them, and they've added that. We've spoken a little bit about that. One of the things we didn't talk about in the notifications, music controls in the notification area. So I'm assuming it's
Something that the manufacturers have done also all the
but
time.
also it's not there persistently. So I'm assuming it's once you start playing, the notification pops up as a notification, and then you can skip songs, you can pause, and it stays in the notification bar. So that to me also says that they've enriched, and they spoke a little bit about it. I don't know if they've
Okay,
enriched it
well,
to that.
That's
to
only
that
going to
length.
work if notification bar stays in all your applications.
Well,
But it is. It's the drag down
It's the
notification.
drag down
bar.
notification bar.
Okay, so
full
it's not-
screen applications like games, you're right, it does disappear.
Thank you.
But if you're playing a game and listening to music,
No, it's not
Really?
just full screen. I mean, Twitter, there's a lot of applications that takes the notification bar away.
Twitter does that.
No, Twitter shouldn't.
Bad Twitter.
You should be able to just drag down.
Drag
even
down
if you've
from the
got
top.
Twitter open. Just drag down from the top.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
okay.
I
okay.
think what you're driving at with the notification bar is enriching the experience, is widgetizing it.
Yes. And I
Oh.
hope that's what they're doing. I haven't had a chance to actually go deeply into the notifications.
I haven't
SDK.
taken a look at the
So
SDK
I'm hoping
either.
that's available to developers, that you can have more rich notifications with actual buttons and toggles and switches. And you could see sort of some of it in the demo with, you didn't just have a notification with some text and a random icon. You could have a picture of someone there, or you could have some other information, which I can't exactly recall. Right, moving swiftly along. We've covered that. The keyboard, I like what they've done with the keyboard. They say it's more accurate. Yay. One of the big features to me is inline spell checker. So it has those little squiggly lines underneath words. Kudos. And then you can select a word and you can pick one from a list.
So
or you can just, from
No
there,
more damn you autocorrect.
Exactly.
Excellent. So now what I want is I want a dev to take this keyboard, yoink it out, and put it on the market for the next time I buy a Samsung or an HTC
I
device.
think there might be
and I need to
a little bit of extra framework in there with the inline spell checking for other things
I don't
as
care.
well.
But the dev needs to hack that out.
Yes.
Put it in the
So
market
they
for
should
me.
do that. And then, of course, we've been complaining about it for long. Improved cut, copy, and paste. mean, with Android, it's always been kind of a mess. You have it, but it's never been consistent. Even with Gingerbread, they improved it, but it wasn't always consistent. Like
in what sense? Because I could always push and hold.
In the Gmail app. Push and hold, try again in the Gmail app. It was, I mean, you had to go through, I think, three submenus, 3 or 4 submenus before you could select text.
Yes, I remember.
And then you'd have this little mouse cursor thing.
But it was only with Gmail. I can't remember anything else really giving me a lot of grief.
Yeah.
If you anywhere else on the device, it seemed to work. It's like there was just a legacy problem with the Gmail app.
Yeah.
And they have improved the Gmail app, but are we getting to that?
I think we do mention
okay,
it
we
a
are
little
getting
bit
to that later.
So improved cut, copy, paste, you can also, just select a word and then you can drag it to a different place in whatever you're typing, so in your SMS.
Oh,
so you can press and drag.
I predict poorly phrased messages from me in future.
Yes.
Because I do that. Like I'm typing and then I'm like, I want to say this a little bit differently. And I do this in articles while I'm writing. I'm like, no, I don't like the order of this.
Journalists
so I shift my sentence around and then I submit it for editing. And James goes, Jan, what the hell are you saying?
And then even you look at it and go, what was I saying?
If they can just pick up numbers correctly.
What do you mean?
Because email, you're right. Gmail. Somebody emails you a mail and his phone number's in there. Just to get that phone number from there into the dialer.
I really hope they fix that, because getting it off of a website or anything like that has been a song. Or getting it out of the normal mail app. Like if I use the HTC mail app, which is fantastic, and I try to get it a phone number, it's great.
Yeah.
It's just Gmail.
Gmail just doesn't work.
So they have worked on Gmail. I don't know how much they've worked on Gmail. Maybe we'll get to that a little bit later. But voice to text, they say they've improved, yeah?
No, but voice to text is an online service.
No?
Yes.
It always used to be. What they do is they encode it, and then they send it to the server, and then it comes back, doesn't it?
They say it's near instant now, and in the demo, it was pretty near instant.
So they went Siri on it. Well,
I don't think it's quite as useful as what Siri promises to be. Siri, it's an iOS 5 feature. We'll get to that maybe a little bit later.
Okay. I don't know if we'll have time to talk about iOS 5 like we promised.
So the voice to text, and it was in the demo pretty accurate. I'm wondering how it's going to scale to other accents, like a South African accent or a British accent or an Australian
classically
accent.
have been doing quite well with their voice search features. I know that they've partnered with some of the guys like at the Morocco Institute, who have done a lot of research into accent, voice recognition with strange accents, especially in the South African context. They've got a Zulu voice recognition.
Yeah, I remember you testing that. How did
if they want to get that sorted out in 2 weeks, give us Google Voice.
Yeah,
give us Google Voice.
They will get so much data from South Africa.
I think Google Voice is a tricky situation, but we can maybe talk about that in a Let's Talk Geek episode.
If they want to sort out text-to-speech with our accents, give us Google Voice. Sort it out in 2 weeks. Done.
Next on the list of features, little gimmicky, but could be kind of cool. Face unlock.
I can just see people walking in the street going,
smiling at their phone. So basically what it does is it recognizes your face to unlock your phone. And if it's not your face, then it won't unlock your phone, like our mixer is showing.
This has been something that they've had on the Toshibas for many years.
Well, what they're saying this is it's going to kind of improve the level of personalization. Your phone is now more personal to you because of that whole face thing. I don't know.
Easier way for them to get photos of us, that's all.
Yeah.
So when they
in the
implement
presentation
the face
itself,
recognition,
it was a bit of a flop.
It didn't work.
No, it didn't work. It didn't work on that guy, which it wasn't supposed to. And it didn't work on the guy whose phone on Duarte. It's actually his phone. It didn't work on him. It didn't recognize him. I think it might have been due to lighting issues. He said it was the makeup. I think it was the demo gods.
It's always that.
It's always the demo gods, especially with a feature like that. So again, could be cute. Could be just another party trick.
It looks like we've lost my camera again. I seem to be breaking cameras.
Next feature is the browser, which I'm a little disappointed it's not Chrome. But I have to say they did announce that Chrome was coming to Android like a few, I think, weeks maybe before actually announcing.
What's going to be
ICS.
full Chrome on? Sorry, I still don't understand.
They said Chrome is coming to Android. So I'm assuming they're taking
the Android
Chromium
browser
project.
is already WebKit based.
It's already WebKit, but it doesn't.
So what, it's going to be the
Chrome.
apps and the extensions are then going to be available
That would
mobile?
be pretty cool. And all of the syncing. So what the browser does now is it gives you some bookmark sync with Chrome. Yes. I don't know why that's never been there. User agent switching, which means that what they actually name it in the browser is request desktop site. So on a phone, you usually get the mobile site, and then you have to voodoo hack your way around to try and get the actual desktop site. Like
Okay.
with my broadband, you can do it if you
Okay.
know how.
But that's badly designed sites.
No, it's
all the
not,
good
because
design-
you're on a phone. It makes sense that you should be getting the mobile site.
Yes, and
But-
good designed sites will give you the option at the bottom of the site to say, switch to full site. That's what most of the sites do that I use.
My broadband does have a switch to full site.
That's
as
how
well.
it should be.
I've seen some sites. It's just sometimes, especially like with my tablet here, I just have it switched to always requesting the desktop site.
Okay.
Site, just always. So yay for that. They introduced tabs, which I'm sure has been available in the stock browser,
No.
just not.
I
as
could open
tabs.
Windows.
Yeah,
I mean,
so they
and-
were They weren't named tabs; they were named Windows.
Yeah,
or something, and
Opera
you could switch
Mobile
between.
definitely had
Yeah.
tabs, but they're also like new Windows.
Yes.
It's just easier to switch
Yeah,
between them.
and it's the same kind of interface still. You have the list type of interface as with multitasking, and to get rid of a tab, you do the usual swish, left or right.
well,
to-
that's new,
to
isn't
get
it?
rid of that's new, because that's something that they're trying.
Please let that be included in stock in the or not in stock in other
in
OEM
others.
stuff.
That's a pattern that they're trying to use there, is to get rid of
But
stuff.
this is not.
You do a flick.
But this is not the Chrome.
No, it's not Chrome.
Oh,
It's still not Chrome, the actual browser.
I don't
They've
understand.
introduced-
What's Chrome going to give you? Is it just going to give you so that your browser
They
doesn't register with a
announced
web server as
Chrome
Apple
is
WebKit?
coming to Android. They didn't say exactly what the difference is going to be. I'm not sure.
Because the Android browser is WebKit based, everything. It's a very strange
But
statement
it
to
makes
make.
sense to me to put Chrome on there. Google already has a browser. Why have two?
Yes.
Use Chrome.
Yeah.
Why have two browsers?
Yeah. But
Next.
I must be the web, the apps.
Hmm.
Must be the web apps.
And that would be pretty awesome. The web apps and the extensions.
Yes.
The extension
be-
support.
That would be,
That would
all of
then
a
open a
sudden
different
you have
market.
a unified platform, or you have a platform. You essentially have a VM that runs on anything, if
Yeah.
you think about it.
Yeah.
Very
And
interesting.
that could be awesome. They've introduced porn mode. I mean incognito mode. Yay for that.
Oh, no, I've always wondered what do you use incognito for. Thanks for answering that question. Okay.
And saving pages offline, which literally takes the page, saves it for offline. And I saw some journalists were commenting about something to do with train schedules and not having signal. So,
So
I'm
what this
assuming-
is? But this is what
That's what apps
Reordered
are for.
does.
Anyway, yeah.
Well, yeah, but even then, you might need a mobile connection. So in this case, you just have the page saved offline so that you can get it. But it's not like read it later. It doesn't do any kind of special formatting.
Okay.
In contrast to, and I actually don't want to mention it now, but to what Apple's done with their reader and their reading list, where it does some pretty formatting for you, and then it syncs across your Apple devices,
Okay.
which is more like read it later or Instapaper, those types of things. So this is literally you save the web page for offline viewing. I think it could be useful. Whatevs. And of course, a lot of the other apps have.
We've already mentioned Gmail,
mentioned
and
Gmail,
Gmail is probably the one
and the
they've done the
widget
most
got-
work
Yeah.
on.
Okay,
so
but
what they've done.
sorry. Hopefully,
Yeah.
I mean Gmail is hopefully going to update to the other platforms as well.
Yes, so that's another. So there are a
Let's hope
couple of
so.
examples of stuff that could, and this is like, this is why I'm saying I reserve judgment a little, because Android is as fragmented as it is, and I know it's a swear word amongst Android aficionados, especially considering how fragmented iOS is. But hopefully we'll get to that later. But I mean, because you've got multiple manufacturers, each with their own skins, each with their own OEM customizations. You're not always entirely sure what an Android upgrade means.
Yeah.
For
Well, Gmail has always been
Android
not
users in
always,
general.
but it's in the market. So again, I don't know whether they've made the features that they've put into Gmail backwards compatible, whether they have compatibility libraries that they've made, like they did with the two-pane thing.
Two-pane thing.
In Honeycomb, you can have two panes, and I can't remember what that thing is called now. For
two panes, as in two apps open at the same time.
No. Like the Gmail thing has list of your mails, and then the mail opens on the right-hand side.
yes.
Okay.
So that sort of thing. They had a backwards compatibility layer so that you could still use that API, but you could still use the app on previous platforms that didn't have that. So you could put it on Gingerbread and Froyo. I don't know how far it went. I think it went as far as 1.6.
Yeah, I mean,
So
we're talking about
I'm
the
hoping
app,
they have some
being in the
compatibility layers.
marketplace. But for example, on my HTC Sensation, I'm still waiting to get the new market.
Yeah.
I'm still running the old version of the Market.
That's weird.
Yeah. The thing is, HTC have customized the Market app. So it might be that Gmail, because Gmail is linked.
Standard Desire's got the new Market.
Yeah. So
wrong.
I haven't actually tested my HTC Desire, to be completely honest. But
I mean, that's an old device.
the Sensation has a button
Yeah.
at the top that says HTC. So you've got
Yeah.
like, what free apps, paid apps, HTC.
specific.
Oh, okay.
So-
And then you can see that some of the calendar things, something they've put
Wow,
in the
that's
calendar now,
pretty.
is pinch to zoom. So if you have
Oh,
a stacked
brilliant.
calendar like that one on the right, you can zoom out a little bit.
Oh, that will be
Which-
great because that's, you should
exactly.
see my
If
calendar.
you have a calendar looking like that. And I've
No,
had
that's
days
a
where my
quiet
calendar
one.
looks like that.
Okay, so now I can actually zoom in the calendar. Oh,
Zoom in, zoom out,
well
pinch
done.
zooming, it looks
Thank
kind of
you.
cool.
Thank you.
That's one of the apps that they've changed. They say they've made changes to Maps and Google Plus, which they mentioned as a core app. So it looks like they're going to be bundling that as a core Google app.
Yeah.
Makes sense in the Google strategy, I guess. Music, which I haven't seen,
Hopefully,
but I think it's been leaked at least.
hopefully music will replace music.
Yes, that's the idea.
Because at the moment, your stock music player is crap.
Is crap.
If you
Agreed.
can get
And the
the beta-
widget for it sucks so bad.
If you can get your hands on the Google Music Beta, oh, that's so beautiful.
Agreed.
So much
but the
better.
widget for that is still pretty
There
crappy.
was some Google Music news leaking today. CNET, yes, because I put it in the newsletter for tomorrow. CNET,
Yeah?
CNET followed up on a story that Wall Street Journal published,
Oh, dear.
citing their patent pending industry people close to the situation.
Yeah.
That
Where have we heard that before?
yeah.
Wasn't it Wall Street again?
yes, it was Wall
Was
Street.
it last time? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what did they say?
Yeah. Anyway, no, there's just some news about Google Music. So
Okay.
yeah, we'll see.
And they made a big deal about People, which is now, by the looks of things, the central app for getting to contacts, getting to make phone calls. And one of the things in there is they have like a grid of pictures. It kind of looks like a magazine layout. And that's also something they were pushing in the demo, is this whole magazine layout which they have in the gallery as well. Little blocks, big pictures with a little bit of text in there.
Okay.
Kind of looks like a magazine layout. And I say in the notes here, a little poaching from Windows Phone 7. And it does look like they poached a little bit from the Windows Phone 7 People Hub. Just a little bit.
You know
But
what's missing in this list?
what's missing?
Tasks.
What do you mean tasks?
You can't, if you want to effectively use your Google Gmail and your calendar, you need tasks in between. And I see nothing about
Oh,
tasks.
Google Tasks.
Google Tasks.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. They made no mention of Google Tasks. I don't know if that's ever going
And
to
there's
be
does it
feature.
exist? Google Tasks in Calendar.
Yes.
in the online one, as far as I know. Yeah.
No, there is nothing that uses an outside API, or
There's-
there's nothing that uses their API that can make use of tasks.
There's G
that I've
Tasks.
seen it,
Gtask is very
which,
good.
Yeah, which
It's a problem,
I use,
but I
but
mean-
not often.
but it's that's a dedicated task app.
Yeah.
I want it rolled into
It should
my
be-
offline calendar
It
app
should
or
be
whatever.
part of the offline calendar. Yes, it should. Another thing they have in there is data usage. So think 3G Watchdog, except now it's kind of baked in there. And you can tell
Oh, that
it-
will be great because these things don't
there
work
we
that
go.
good anymore.
It's on the screen now. So you can monitor your data usage over a specific period of time, and then you can try and see in that specific period of time which apps have been using all of your
Kudos.
caps.
Thank
And then you
you.
can stop that app from using.
Oh, so they've basically
Oh,
replaced
great.
my 3G Watchdog.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
very
is
sad.
your 3G
But I
Watchdog
think-
working? Have you checked if it's actually picking up tethering?
Wi-Fi
Mine
does
always
what?
used to.
I don't think it does.
Doesn't.
Oh, you mean if you turn on your Wi-Fi?
turn on Wi-Fi
Oh,
hotspot
yeah,
and
I haven't
something
done that
else
in a
uses it,
while.
so-
All right.
So yes, it would be great, and I'm sure it's not 3G Watchdog's fault. It's actually a problem with the OS.
Well, maybe.
So if the OS is now
Yeah.
going to sort out
May-
data usage, maybe these type of applications just got to look a little bit different.
What?
and-
Why would I
Yeah.
even download the application now that I've got
Yeah,
it
now
built
that
into
you
the
have
OS?
that.
Because
Why bother?
that's what I'm saying. They must now just rethink their strategy and make it more information. I mean,
Yeah.
why do people tend to do other applications and not the stock because they do something different?
Yes.
Yes.
Because
Then-
they didn't say anything about limiting. Probably they just said they'll give you the information.
Yeah.
You see, so you might still need
the
3G
APIs are
Watchdog.
still there, and the 3G Watchdog, yeah, it could be more powerful. Hopefully, the features that you see in the data user are part of the API. I'll have to take a look. There's so much stuff to go and
Okay.
play with now. The camera,
What,
which
please, yeah. What did they do?
the camera got a big revamp, even though the Galaxy Nexus camera, maybe someone will start ranting about that. I want someone to start ranting about it. But the camera app itself got some love. Touch to focus. Touch on the screen. It focuses on a specific place for your exposure. Camera people will know more what it does. So your exposure and yada yada. Face detection on real faces. They showed the photos that they took at the demo were little toys and bots and Android things. It's on the screen now as well. Those little bots, and it didn't detect any faces. So obviously those aren't real faces. They claim 0 shutter lag. And I'm wondering to myself how they did this.
What do they mean by 0 shutter lag?
By 0 shutter lag, they mean when you push the button, it takes a photo. And then you can snap photos really quickly. Like he took 4 or 5 photos.
Easy.
Did we lose another camera?
We lost my camera again.
I think we should just stick with the
So what
overhead
other
view.
camera? What's that?
We
what's
don't
the
have
other?
any more cameras to use on Jan. Jan has effectively killed all of them.
I don't see which ones are turned on. Oh, the.
This is crazy.
I seriously don't understand what's going on.
This is
Like,
crazy.
what's going on? Why would this turn on?
You're a
randomly?
wizard, Jan.
When one goes down, it finds out.
So there's definitely something wrong with the USB host.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
Any case,
Okay.
camera.
Camera. My
Okay.
finger shut down now. 0 shutter lag. So they take 0 shutter lag. So they take a whole bunch of photos
Tell you how
really
they do
quickly.
that.
I'm assuming it's like a video input,
No.
and then you take because they have that in the video app. Not.
If you've tried the application or the stock camera application for a while, you'll notice that anything running in the background causes the camera delays. So if you actually go and you had it on, and you kill everything and then open your camera, it works like a charm. So all they've done is they've pushed up that priority on the camera. They free up all the free applications.
Yeah.
So a good test would be is launch the camera application, take some photos, then go back to the last program you had before the camera and see how that performs.
Okay.
That's all they had to do
So-
because you've got RAM. You've got a lot of RAM.
Yeah, they
And
have
the-
a gig of RAM. They have a gig of
Yes.
RAM in that
And these
Galaxy Nexus.
cameras have got, I mean, these photos, what do they need? 300, 500K. So they just free up enough RAM and just start taking pictures into the RAM and then start dumping them down to the SD. That's where your delay is.
What I'd like to see with the camera is, with the Galaxy Nexus at least, is how good the quality of the photos are if you're snapping so quickly.
Yes.
So does the 0
Does it
shutter
still
lag?
focus?
Yes, it looks like it at least. Does it still focus properly? Is it taking blurry shots? Is
Look,
it, do you
Samsung's
have
cameras
motion blur?
haven't been bad. So if you look at
The Nexus
compare,
S wasn't that fantastic.
yeah, I guess, but the Galaxy S2 wasn't bad at all.
Yes,
Um,
agreed.
So,
So hopefully, what they've got there with that, with
I'm
the sensor.
seeing how the application developers are losing their jobs here. We already spoke about 3G Watchdog. Go on. What's
Yeah.
your next one?
Next one, Panorama mode. And what's really cool about the
Photov.
Panorama, Photaf, a couple of others, I think, for Panorama mode.
and we're
Some
about
of
to
those
get to
are-
Instagram.
Are paid
Anyway, yes.
applications. And what's cool about the Panorama mode is you just hold it up and you pan. You don't have to.
Oh,
you don't have to
brilliant.
take the shutter. You don't have to wait for it to take photos.
Because
or
there's
anything
no
like that.
shutter lag, right?
Well, there's no shutter lag, but you don't even have to push the button. You start at a point, and then you let that little bar at the bottom. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but you let that thing guide you, and you pan, and then
Just to get your
just
speed
to
right.
start, you push the button, but you don't have to take any more photos after that. And to finish, you push the button, and then it gives you a quick preview of what you just did, stitching them together, and then you have your photo.
Well, that's interesting.
I mean, I think that's pretty cool. I've been looking for a good Panorama app that
I just
actually
hope that
works
that's
that
attached
way.
to a good
I s-
camera.
Yes, same.
Doesn't help they've got all these rad features. And now the other, yeah, sorry, I sound like a broken record, but like everybody has their own camera apps. So
Yes, but now you have a default,
use
a,
a
good
stock,
template.
a stock camera app to work off
the
of
problem
with
is
a
you
lot
can
of
never switch
functionality
back
in
to the
there.
stock. So if you bought an
But-
HTC or Samsung, you're stuck with what they've given you unless somebody's hacked the stock and put it onto the
Yes,
market.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's dependent, again, on the OEMs.
And I really hope that once, as Johan said, this is as easy as them going, okay, all these other cool features we've put in our camera app, we can roll into this one quite easily and make it our own. Because if you look at the Samsung Galaxy S2's camera app, which is not the stock Android camera app,
Yeah.
it's quite good.
Yeah.
When the normal stock apps, even on the iPhone to a degree, there's a little bit of input lag.
Yeah.
So the image ghosts as you pan, your viewfinder, as it were, ghosts as you move the camera around. Not on the S2 and not on certain other Android devices as well. So they've obviously, got something really good going
Yeah.
on their camera apps.
They've
Yes,
added some...
HDR.
No.
Oh,
Not that
come
I can remember.
on.
Not that I can remember. Not in
Is
the
there a
demo.
good reason maybe for HDR not being included?
I don't know.
It's
patent
not an
issues?
Apple.
I
No,
don't
it's
know.
not an Apple patent. HDR's got nothing to do with Apple. This is they build it in.
Well, they have hipster
Sorry, yeah.
filters. Yay for
What's
hipster.
hipster?
Hipster filters. You know all those filters to put over your photos to make it look old school or new school or digital or I don't know what all the hipsters put over their photos nowadays. They have those. I'm going really sci, but
That's what iPhoto's for.
I can understand why they put it in there. You need to appeal to that market. So I'm probably never going to use those hipster filters. Other people are going to use them. So fine, put them in there.
If you've ever taken any type of photo, never do the filters. Never.
Yeah.
Because you download them on your PC and then you go, oh, you know what? That filter maybe wasn't the best thing.
Well, what's nice about the filters, I think that's it's a post-processing or a post-thing,
so
so
you
something
keep
that
the
you apply,
original. Okay.
and then it keeps the original.
Oh, so
and
like
that's something
HDR.
with
That's
the
what
video.
HDR does. HDR on the
Is-
iPhone takes the shot and does an
No.
HDR shot.
Can you do that?
No, HDR is 3 shots and take with different
And then-
exposures.
okay.
Yes, I
Makes it
understand. But it saves the original.
Okay.
So
So they've introduced some other video or not video picture editing things, so you can sort of tilt and
You
crop
skew
and
and that sort
do
of-
sort of
okay.
funny stuff to it, and it saves it as a copy. It doesn't save over the original. You always
That
have
is
the
good.
original to fall back onto.
No, look, the basic
Clever.
editing tools, that would be great because
Yeah,
you do
and
take
now
photos.
you have some of them.
You're mobile. You want to put it on Facebook, and all you want to do is just crop out the guy in the background taking a piss,
Yeah,
and then you can't do it on
the
your
photo
mobile.
bomber.
Yeah. So that I agree, but the whole effects and stuff, no. That's, no.
And a cool thing that I actually kind of like, they've put in time lapse. I kind of like it.
time lapse, what does that do?
I
I know what the term means,
It's not
but
recording,
yeah.
but so photo now, and then you can set the time limit between the next photo and the next photo and so on. So
it's-
you
it's
have a bunch of
auto
photos.
shots. Does it
Yeah.
come with a tripod?
No, but you should see what one of the Googlers did with his Galaxy Nexus. He rigged the thing to I don't know what that thing was, but he rigged it to a whole thing, and on a beach, and took photos, sunset photos, and they came out pretty damn cool. And
All right.
they had some of the time lapse things playing there.
So what I
looks
have
like
seen
to me
people
looks
do.
really cool.
I would like to read further there because time-lapse photos of night skies, there's a lot of things time-lapse work very well. And if you now have that functionality in a phone, it opens up a new world because proper time-lapse on a professional camera costs a lot of money. It's not the sort of, but now if you've got time-lapse, but now thinking about things like, will the phone go into sleep mode, then wake up, take the picture, go back, that sort of stuff would be great because if that works, yes. Now to dump a photo somewhere and just say take one photo every minute and leave it there for 2 days. Oh,
I don't think
that's
the battery will last
brilliant.
that long, but yeah, it's a phone. If you switch off all the radios,
Yeah, you switch off all the
then
radios.
maybe
That's what I'm saying.
it'll last a while. I don't know
it
if it'll
falls
make
asleep,
a couple of days.
Wakes up, take a photo, falls asleep.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
that would be
It's
a very cool
interesting.
approach. And the last thing they mention is you can take a picture while you're busy recording video.
So
Which
it
is
works
cute.
like a handycam because handycams do that.
Yeah,
The new ones, yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
That's
again, is the picture going to be picture quality or is it going to be video quality? See, it's a good
We'll
thing
have to wait and see
Yeah, it's good things to tell me this,
yeah.
but I mean, the pictures are always better quality than the videos.
and the videos. Well, the camera on the Galaxy Nexus does take 1080p, but of course, if you're taking full 5 megapixel photos, then
Exactly,
it's not
bigger than
1080p.
the
It's bigger.
It's bigger.
So yeah, Android Beam, which they've been building up towards it. It's an NFC
Oh, we're back to tapping. Oh,
Yes.
come on!
bump to tap.
Okay,
over
but this is
NFC.
NFC tapping.
Yeah, it's NFC
This
sharing.
isn't that GPS.
You end up in a crowd of people, and who's got another NFC phone? Who's got another Android that
Well,
you can
there's,
actually tap?
there's only one way to actually get it into the market, and that's to start introducing phones that people are going to buy. I mean, Blackberries are coming out with it now. The iPhone 4S doesn't.
And everybody's
probably
doing their
have
own
their own
stuff and not
reasons.
talking to one another.
Yeah, so,
So,
everyone's
Yes.
doing something and not talking
But
to
it
each
is a
other. But
fledgling
here's something
technology.
on Google phones, and the Android market share is big. So maybe this can actually
and what
get
Android's
NFC going.
what
Okay.
Google's doing to push this tech is Google Wallet. So
Yeah,
I mean,
in
obviously
the
that's only
States, we
available to Sprint customers in certain cities
on the Nexus
Ne-
S 4G.
for Sprint.
For
So I mean, it's while it's in a limited trial at the moment, that's
Yeah.
the kind of tech
That's
that
the
could
kind
be
of
really
tech,
good.
and other people are starting to look at it. So the banks and PayPal and those people are looking at it as well because Google's now doing wallet. So people are starting to look at NFC.
No, NFC.
As a
Sorry,
serious
sorry. NFC and the way of payment and everything. I'm just back to this whole bump thing. I mean, so many people have tried it in the past.
It's a simple way to share stuff
When it's
really
on
quickly.
your phone, I would argue, if it's on your phone, like you have these people who market stuff that you carry around with you, that you bump to another exactly the same device. Now you've got to find a person with that exact same device. Now the Nokia N9 has NFC on it. Blackberries are getting NFC. The Androids are getting NFC. Now that you've got all the devices in the marketplace with NFC, now you
Get
just
them
need
to
people.
talk to them.
Now
to
you just
talk
need
to each other.
Well, that's a simple. That's a
maybe
task
that's
for
a
an app
developer
developer.
issue. Yeah.
So Google obviously are going to go. We're going to focus on making stuff for our devices because we want you to buy our stuff.
Yes.
But an app developer might go, I want my stuff to work on as many devices as possible. And all of a sudden, NFC is relevant as a technology. But it's going to take a developer to build something compelling. LinkedIn I think, has an NFC app on the N9.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, I just have to look at it.
Okay, that
on
makes
Either that or
an
Foursquare.
Android phone. And I want the same thing for the Gautrain.
Yep.
I want to be
the
able
Gautrain, you can't even recharge your card on the web yet.
Yeah,
but
I know.
Let's,
It's ridiculous.
Let's get to
Let's
that
not even go
another
there.
time.
So along with Android Beam, they have Wi-Fi Direct, which is kind of like Android Beam, but with an ad hoc Wi-Fi network instead of NFC.
backward compatibility.
But it's also, it's interesting.
I wondered, now that would be a cool
That would be
feature,
a very
good example of a feature that, all OEMs would be able to use. So if that's something that if I upgrade my HTC Sensation to Ice Cream Sandwich, and that's a feature I get, then all of a sudden, exactly as Johan says, you've got a bunch of devices out there with NFC-like capabilities, except that setting up an ad hoc Wi-Fi network is normally like drawing blood out of a stone.
No, it's not. If you've got... ad hoc is actually very simple if both devices support it. So if the OS is going to support this, it could actually work. No, it could actually... You're going to obviously have to trigger it. It's not going to be always on.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to say, okay, no, it's something that's...
Like I say, it's interesting. Whether it's going to actually do anything useful after this announcement.
Jan made the right comment. If somebody like LinkedIn brings out the app that then unifies all the different platforms and gets their contact sharer going, yes, then it's going to work. But if you want to use standard Android and between your people, what they call it now, people and Android transfer, no, it's not going to work.
Well, it'll work, but then there has to be like Bluetooth. Bluetooth has a particular standard for transferring these things. And I think it's vCard. So if you can go, okay, everybody, we transfer vCards in this format, please not plain text, between devices, then that could work.
Yeah.
I mean, that already is a much more convenient way to share contact information than an MMS or, an email is acceptable, but some email clients mangle the thing. It's just a very convenient way. Or even SMS. I remember my HTC Desire trying to get that to share vCards was crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
Was a mess.
Mad.
So if you can have a sort of standard for that using NFC.
Well, that's where, I'm sorry.
Because
now, when
Bluetooth-
people introduce themselves, I go LinkedIn. Yes, how do you spell your name? Find it. Okay, is that you? Yeah, connect. There you go. Got everything. Keep your card. So, yeah, LinkedIn.
Except that you won't get my phone number or email address in LinkedIn because...
Yeah, I don't think I have that in LinkedIn either.
Oh, shame.
And those are all the features that they announced at the demo. That's...
Well,
that
that's
they've
kept us
done-
busy for the better part of an hour.
Exactly.
So-
They've done a complete UI revamp. We saw a little bit of it with Gingerbread. We saw a lot of it with Honeycomb. And they've taken a lot of those features, combined them, and now we have a combined platform for tablets and phones. They didn't demo a tablet. So there's no Nexus tablet yet.
They've probably saved that for Motorola.
We'll see. Hopefully...
Because they've done two
hopefully
Nexus
not.
phones with Samsung now, and then,
Has Motorola made tablets?
the Zoom. The Zoom was the
Yes.
was the
Which
flagship for
was okay.
Honeycomb.
But it started off pretty badly. Now with 3.1, it's better. In South Africa, it's not getting updates. It's not on 3.2 just yet. And it's okay. I still prefer my trusty transformer here.
It was a good device.
Yeah,
It was a good device.
it was. The transformer will be getting ICS soon. ASUS has been on Twitter and on Facebook and, putting it's coming soon. It's coming soon. And they've
What is
also...
Samsung saying?
I think they're pretty quiet on it so far.
Okay. Damn.
So we'll have to see there. The Transformer 2, which we've seen pictures of, is also, from what I know, going to be launching with Ice Cream Sandwich. So it looks like
ASUS has been really good in terms of staying
in terms
current.
of software updates. It's also because they don't have so much skinning to do.
Yes.
They have a couple of
Let
icons
this be
at
a
the
lesson.
bottom.
Because if ASUS bring out a phone,
If That's the pad phone.
Yes,
exactly.
I'm buying that thing simply because
That's
I
something I
know
would consider.
that the only device that's going to have the upgrade before me is the Nexus.
Yeah, and I've said this either on Google Plus or on Twitter. If ASUS pulls off the ice cream sandwich update, like maybe a couple of weeks after ice cream sandwich launches on a device, becomes open source, if they get that out in a couple of weeks, they're winning.
The premium.
They are the premium guys making Android devices so far.
Yes.
And that is a total win in my book. It'll be awesome.
For geeks, because what I have heard some of the industry guys arguing, and I'm not sure how valid the argument is, without having conducted a proper survey of Android users, but they argue that the majority of Android users don't actually care what version software they're running, as long as their phone works.
For what they need it to do.
For the feature set that they've got. They don't care that.
Except the updates give you more features.
I agree.
So you don't know that you want a feature. And it sounds stupid. You don't know you want a feature until you've actually used it. But it's happened to me. I can't recall exactly where, but I know it's happened to me. Where I didn't know something was so awesomely useful.
Well,
until
one
I've
example I
used
think is the upgrade from Eclair, and it's not a visible feature, but the upgrade from Eclair to Froyo brought JIT, right, which sped up things tremendously.
Yes.
Across the platform, so that's a great example of something that you would want,
maybe
but you don't know that you want
the
it.
Wi-Fi hotspot was that in Froyo.
Yeah, that was in Froyo.
That came in Froyo, so it's also one of those features that we were. I think some people were clamoring for it. I went, never going to use that. Yeah, I've used that a couple of times so far. From getting my tablet onto the internet and all of those things.
Hotspot's handy to have.
Hotspot is handy to have. So the upgrades give you features. And those are the features. Other important things, Ice Cream Sandwich will be open sourced, where Honeycomb wasn't, but for specific reasons. Ice Cream Sandwich is going to be open sourced after the Galaxy Nexus is in the market. So that's sometime in November, as far as I understand.
Next month.
Yeah, sometime in next month, the Galaxy Nexus will be launching. And after that launch, Ice Cream Sandwich will be out. And then the guys like CyanogenMod can get Cyanogen, 8 or 9 ready.
8. Will be 8.
It'll probably be 8. They're on 7 point something now, so they can do
7.1 if I remember right.
Something like that. And then the OEMs can jump on it too.
Well, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be...
Yeah, that's also a feature.
Apparently, the feature that I really like about Ice Cream Sandwich is the bloatware hider, which I don't think we've covered yet.
Yeah, we haven't covered that.
I don't know if we were going to get to that. It's pretty far down.
Well, it's right below where we were just now. As a bloatware hider, you can hide any app, even a system app. You can hide it. Now, you can't uninstall it. Uninstalling requires super user privileges, and I don't know how you'd wangle that sort of thing, giving temporary pseudo privileges for certain kinds of things.
And plus, I don't think that you wanna really anger your OEMs like that.
Yeah, and with OEMs especially, some of those apps are actually kind of important for some of the other apps. So they have them integrate. One app integrates into the other one, and what I can think of now is Amazon MP3 with the HTC Fly. It was on there. It's useless in South Africa, but it's because it integrated with some of the other apps on the HTC Flyer. So you don't want to remove that because it might break functionality. But you can hide the bloatware. Out of sight, out of mind. That kind of thing.
As long as there's enough storage, because the problem I had on the HTC Desire, obviously, is that it had very limited system storage.
With the Nexus, I haven't run into storage problems just yet.
Yeah. Well, I think if you've got... See, because this is the other thing on Android. Now, on an Android device, you often have the memory or the storage section partitioned.
Yeah.
So you have 1 or 2 gigs for your system memory. I don't know what else to call it really. And the other part for, that's actually registered like normal external storage.
Yeah, like SD card or something.
And sometimes one is actually a faster bit of storage than the other. Sometimes it's all the same flash.
Yeah.
So, and it's just partitioned. So whereas on a device like the iPhone, for example, it's all one unified piece of storage you can address uniformly.
Yeah.
And this is an issue on Android, though thus far I've not had reason to need more than 2 gigs of internal storage.
There are some cases, like I'm thinking of bigger games.
Yeah, but normally you
download the game, and then the game says we have to download all the text, all the big things, the texture files and those things. So you launch the game, and then you have to go into the game and actually download all of those things before you can start playing.
No, but normally, see, the thing is that the way the market's been modified, or at least the way the package has been modified now, is that if you download something like that, Dungeon Defenders is a great example of a game I used to test stuff like this specifically. It downloads what it needs to the system area. The rest it moves to external storage. Automatically.
Exactly,
So as long as the game is packaged correctly, you don't have to worry about stuff like that.
But that's, yeah, okay, I get what you're saying.
So that might be the only issue to just hiding bloatware rather than getting rid of it. If you really wanted that space, you can't have it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Root your phone. Then you can get rid of
Root
it.
your phone.
The biggest culprit is actually the stock apps. I mean, if you look at, sorry, I'm trying to get there. If you look at your maps,
Yeah,
how much space that uses?
quite a bit, I'm assuming.
But I mean, I wouldn't want to get rid of
Short
maps.
bus
Yeah.
size, there we go. I mean, thank you FNB, 13 megs.
What do they have going on in there?
Adobe Flash, 12 megs. Maps, 10 megs.
Okay, I'm going to move us along because
Well, we're just about
market,
done with the Android. I don't know
7.8
if you want to do the iOS stuff.
I think iOS has been covered. I think that the show is getting a bit long.
Yeah.
So there's one last thing.
Two last things. The
okay.
one is Ice Cream Sandwich supports USB game controllers.
Yes, the
and
mixer brought
HDMI.
that up just now.
Yeah, brought up the tweet.
And that's HDMI out of your...
HDMI out of your
USB
out of your
port.
device.
USB game controllers.
Yes. So you get a USB to a micro USB controller or a cable
Yes.
for the controller. Plug it in. The
Yes.
phone supports it.
Okay, but this is something that we saw a couple of weeks ago on Let's Talk Geek when we had the Hack for House here.
House for Hack.
House for Hack. That apparently these phones, you can turn the slave into a host. So they're now just making it...
I think the way that they might be doing it is through ADB. So it's not a real host. It's kind of a fake.
It's a debug host, right?
Yeah, it's a debug host.
Yeah.
So you need to turn on your debugging in order to do that, as far as I understand.
So the game controller is going to work on the same idea?
No, these game controls are... Oh. the game controllers are supported natively.
Okay.
Host.
Okay, and then HDMI, sorry.
And then HDMI out. So you can hook your phone up to your TV. You know, like we saw with the Xperia Play. I
Yeah.
think Jan's camera just died again. There it is. So with the
Oh, my
Xperia
word.
Play, where you could plug it into your TV and then you could play like that.
Yes.
So now you have a game controller plugged into your phone plugged into your TV. You basically have a console from your phone.
Interesting.
I don't
Okay,
have to buy a
but the
PS3 or an
HDMI,
Xbox.
the HDMI out works from what? Do you need a specialized port for that on the
I'm
phone,
assuming an HDMI, either micro or
which
mini.
the Galaxy Nexus doesn't have?
Does it?
Does it
No.
does it or does it not have?
HDMI output?
Yeah.
I don't think it does.
Not that I'm aware of. But there are features on the Galaxy Nexus. I'm going to put that out there. I mean, maybe this has come out in the meantime. I mean, the stuff breaks so fast. But to the best of my knowledge, it also doesn't have an SD card, but that's under dispute.
Yeah.
My Faramites have actually hauled me over the coals because I said in a spreadsheet or in a table that it doesn't have an SD card slot, whereas GSM Arena said it does. But nobody else has, and it's not in the official spec sheet. So without actually getting confirmation on the final specs of the Galaxy Nexus, but I don't remember there being made any sort of hoo-ha about having an HDMI port.
I want to come back to this USB. This is a step backwards. I'm sorry.
USB?
Yeah. Simply, I'm going to say that because already, if you go hack around in the Android marketplace, the Nintendo Wii controller, Bluetooth,
Yeah.
you can already connect it to an Android. The
Interesting.
Xbox controller, because it's Bluetooth.
Yeah.
The Xbox controller is also Bluetooth. You can already connect it to the Android. So why would they now want to go and, okay, well, we'll support USB controllers?
Isn't that a
It's
little
like-
bit... I don't know. I don't have a console. Isn't an actual physical cable just a little bit more reliable than a Bluetooth device?
I mean, that's the basis that the new Xbox, the new PS3, and the Wii is built. They're all wireless controllers. I can't comment. I don't know what the PS3 controller is running on, but I'm going to assume it's probably Bluetooth because that's the reliable connectivity. They all run. I know the Wii controller works on Bluetooth, and there's an Android app that hasn't really used it, but yeah, you can connect your Nintendo Wii controller to your Android phone.
I think that probably the reason this announcement is significant is because it wasn't there before. Supporting a controller via Bluetooth is probably trivial because Bluetooth is already there. So they probably already do. And so this announcement is just a kind of like, oh, and by the way, now people will be able to make docks, and you plug in your device into this dock, HDMI controller, and
You've got a console.
you've got a console. So, because I don't see myself having my phone and then plug a controller into my phone and then trying to play a game while holding my phone up. I mean, the phone will have to be put down somewhere in order to play.
Yeah.
And the most logical place for that is a dock. So, but
And
Android.
that's on the side of the Galaxy Nexus. They didn't actually talk about it, but there are 3 pins there that look suspiciously like it's supposed to be docked into something
Okay.
on the one side.
So yeah, we'll see where that ends up. But Android is, I don't know if this is a strategic thing or if it just happened. If it's Sony because Sony Ericsson, sided with Android.
Yeah.
But Android is being positioned as a gaming platform through the Xperia Play, and it's a bit sad that some of those games aren't coming to the rest of the Android devices a bit quicker, especially considering that a lot of them, especially the ones with PowerVR graphics, have a lot better graphics processing than the Adreno in the Xperia Play allows. But Android is becoming a mobile gaming platform.
Yep.
And it seems that a lot of these guys are trying to push their devices as mobile gaming platforms. iOS is trying to push Game Center. Windows is obviously, or Microsoft is obviously trying to push Xbox Live onto their Windows phones. So that's also going to, because the
And
thing
that's a
is,
big market.
it is, because, that is what's, when you ask a gamer, a PC gamer at least, what platform they run, it's Windows. And the dominant gaming platform.
Walk around in rage and try and find a Mac.
Yeah.
I tried.
No,
Exactly.
we tried. We couldn't find one. Did you eventually find one?
Nah, or Ubuntu.
And the thing
Not
is,
gonna happen.
the dominant gaming platform,
Yes, Windows.
depending on your definition of platform, is DirectX. If you consider the Xbox and the Windows
Yes,
PC together, so if people can weasel that kind of dominance out of Microsoft, that would be a lovely market to have.
Way to make Microsoft very unhappy with
But I have my reservations about mobile gaming. We'll see. Mobile gaming might not be that big
Okay.
here, but it might be big elsewhere.
Thank you. The East. PSP's biggest market is the East. There, everybody's using PSP. So I think the Sony Ericsson
Xperia Play.
is
gonna
going to
be a
do
big thing
very
there.
well there.
Okay.
We looked at the device at Rage, and it's a very good device.
The last thing I have on the list is what it takes to build Android from source. And holy smokes, I didn't think this is the kind of system you needed to build it from source. To build Ice Cream Sandwich, it's a 6 gig download, 25 gigs on, you need 25 gigs on disk to do a single build, 80 gigs of disk space to build all of AOSP config, Android open source project, that is, configs at the same time, 16 gigs of RAM recommended, more is preferred, anything less will measurably benefit from using an SSD, and 5 or more hours of CPU time for a single build. That's, according to this, 25 plus minutes of wall time as measured on the developer's workstation, which is a dual E5620, so 2 quad cores clocked at 2.4 gigahertz, hyper-threaded. So what's that, 16 threads?
Does the compiler support that anyway?
With
Yes.
24 gigs of RAM, no SSD. That's a crazy spec sheet to build Android open source project in a reasonable amount of time.
So if you're interested in deploying your own versions of, so the Cyanogen guys,
I don't know what they're
how
running.
do the ROMs work? Do they take binary, precompiled versions of Android and add on to it, or hack at it in binary, or in hex, as it were?
No, they compile.
Yeah, they
Because there's
compile.
nightly builds.
It's nightly, but they build nightly.
So, but they probably build on a thing that they rent from somewhere. They probably
that's
Amazon
from
server something.
Probably an Amazon. No, I think it's actually one of their own, possibly from, is it Koosh, who set it up for them. But they have a Git repo, and it auto builds
and they
every
probably
night.
have to put down their own piece of hardware. You
I
can't
see
just use
some render
virtualization.
farms coming from Google in the not too distant future.
What do you mean coming from? I'm sure they already have them.
But yeah, some render farms.
For people to use, though. I don't know how many
Yeah.
people need to build Android.
Yeah. Wow, that's what you want for the ROM developers.
Yep. Cool bananas.
And that is Ice Cream Sandwich in an hour and a bit.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit longer if we cut out all of those camera failures. I don't know if we want to go on about iOS 5.
No. I think, iOS 5, I think, has been covered in more than sufficient
In
detail.
more than
This wasn't
sufficient
supposed
detail,
to be a comparison or, looking at just, iOS 5 has launched. Doing a little bit of comparison between what iOS 5 and what Android did.
The Ice Cream
we've done.
Sandwich, the Ice Cream Sandwich announcement and, eventual launch just excites me so much more than what iOS 5 did.
But you're a fanboy.
I'm a little bit of a fanboy, I'll agree to that. But just looking at iOS 5, what did they bring?
Okay, let's close on that point. Let's
And-
close on that point.
Well, that's not a fair point to close on.
All I want to add is, if our listeners, please, we are attending. Some of us are attending the G South Africa talk.
That's in November, start of November. I
Beginning of
forget the
November.
dates.
We will have access to some of these developers. Google, it's one thing they do is they fly in international guys.
Yeah.
So if there's any questions out there you want us to post to these guys, please email us. Anything at letstalknetwork.tv. We'll get it, but just mark it obviously in the subject for the G South Africa. If you have, I don't know if the registration is closed yet.
I'd imagine it is.
Yeah, there was a vetting process, wasn't there?
Yeah.
To
Yes.
get in.
I'm not sure how stringent
How
they were
rigorous
with
it
it.
was.
The questions were kind of interesting. You had to answer questions about Google and Google products. Some of them, even I looked at. I'm like, well, I've never worked with this tech, so
Google is
Yeah.
big brother, and you're going to take control and like mind number
Skynet.
all.
Yeah.
So in any
So you
case,
have to answer a bunch of questions and then give them references to things you may have developed or things you're working on.
Neat.
so if you want us to ask questions to those guys, please post
Yeah,
it through.
post questions. I've got a couple already.
But then also,
Get
we are
Google Moderate,
considering to stream from there, but we're not going to do it if nobody's going to watch. So let us
So
know. If
let us know.
if
I'd
you're
watch
interested,
since I can't go.
if
but,
you're interested, we'll get permission. We'll try and stream from there.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have one viewer.
You can let us know via either email or you can climb on Twitter. Contact me at HawkiesZA. Johan, where can they get a hold of you?
Johan _Els.
There we go. Jan.
At Jan VZA. Because at Jan ZA was taken and at Jan was taken. And nobody, like at Jan, that guy at least uses his Twitter account. But all the other guys fail.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we get enough votes, we'll actually do the effort and see if we can get permissions to actually stream. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah,
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for this, and special edition of Let's Talk Geek broadcast. Don't get too used to it. We have lives.